that. I'm looking at the chart right now for the Schumann resonance, and it's Tuesday, April 18th. We have the new moon coming tomorrow evening on the Pacific Coast at 9:12 p.m. Pacific time. So I wonder if the big wave that was shaped kind of like a knife because it comes at an angle, the white resonance. I wonder if that was our new moon energy or if we're going to get something else. The interesting feature that's been on the chart the last 3 days, including today, is this rod of light that just comes in, right? And it just looks strong because unlike the verticals that come in that might be only 1 pixel wide on this chart, and I'll put a link to it, when I complete this live. But if you go to my Substack, I have a link to the live chart, and I have a link to the daily charts. Um, but for 3 days, we've gotten this rod of light that lasts almost an hour. Today, it lasted a full hour, especially in the lower hertz. And we can see it forming again. And it's really interesting because um, on the 16th, it started at 1700 hours. On the 17th, it started at 1800 hours. And on the 19th, today on the chart, now in the USA, it's still the 18th, but there's day-night reversal with the chart because it's in Tomsk, Russia. Today, it started at 20 hours, which is 10 p.m. on the chart. So it's interesting because it's like there's been a lengthening, right? A lengthening of the periodicity of this energy. Now, I don't know, what is that? Is it like a countdown energy to the new moon? It's brighter the second day. Will it be for more hours today? We'll find out as the day goes on in the USA because it's during our day that this is happening. And, the other thing I wanted to say is there was a shift in the energy about 4 days ago. You might have noticed there was a green band again at the top of the chart from 0 to 15 hertz, and then it just stopped. The chart was clear all the way to the top, very much blue and just lines, some big lines of green. What does all this mean? Well, the Schumann resonance is an energy in the air around us. So you can see the link, right, between talking about the air or the energy in our human energy field and the Schumann. Because if I'm walking I'm walking in the air, I'm walking in the atmosphere of our planet as I move through my day, as I walk outside, right? The resonances are in that space from the surface of the planet to the atmosphere. So I'm moving among this energy and other energy as well. So within the range of 0 to 40 hertz, because this is a non-physical measurement of electromagnetic energy, there are 4 resonances. Now 0 to 40 hertz just happens to be the same range as human brain waves. And the resonances, in my view, reflect states of consciousness in the human experience. This is how I view the meaning of the Schumann resonance. I mean, there are 7 or 8 billion of us generating these brain waves every day at all the different levels, right? Because half the planet is sleeping, half the planet is awake, having their day, as we move throughout the entire globe. Um, so yeah, I look at it as a map of human consciousness. And then I track the brainwave levels to the levels of hertz being experienced on the chart. And I track the images because over the years they recur and certain things can tend to happen at certain times. So the reason that I pointed out the rods of energy is this, because we have been having essentially a similar effect in another part of the chart. Behind the images are data, and the data is what comes together to create the image chart. Where we've been having a similar rod-like effect is in the green qualities. It's my view that the green represents the general state of humanity, so I view it as a positive. And before the pandemic, the green used to be at 31, used to peak at 31 in the green qualities very often, okay? And actually, I'm gonna put the chart, let me see if I let me see if I can figure out how to put a link to this in oh, I know, I can put it in the chat. There we go. Okay, there's the link to the chart. So if you wanna follow along with what I'm looking at the qualities right now. I'll put a link to that in the chart too. Okay. So the nice thing is they've recently added English names. So thank you, chart people, for doing that. That's the link to the quality there, page 14. So if you look at it and you look at green, what you can see is that the numbers on the key on the left and the right, green's way higher than every other resonance, and it spikes to 31. Pre-pandemic, the chart could literally be full of spikes to 31. As qualities rise, in my view, the human experience is we feel closer to our own soul. I explained that in detail in one of my last couple of videos, so I'm not gonna go into that further today. But you feel closer to the truth of who you are. It's like getting a surge of confidence. It's like getting a surge of insight, right? And then you don't necessarily act on it that day, but your energy has risen up. So it's my view that these energies are not in the moment. They're a reflection of an energy that's available to you or that becomes available to you or that we create within the human energy field. So right now I'm talking about the Schumann resonance and the meaning on the chart in general and specifically today because the qualities are spiking. And here's the interesting thing, after the big wave of energy, you know what? Let me put my article I'm gonna put my article that I just published in the links as well, so you can see that. Um, let's see here. I just published 2 articles on the, Schumann and the astrology charts. Let's see here. So here's the article from last night. And in this article, I have a link also to my video on the wave of energy. And now I'm going to give you the article before that. And in that video, I talked in detail about qualities and how I view them as expressing. So here's this second article, copy link. I'll put that in there. Okay. All right. So where was I? So since the big wave of energy on the 17th on the chart, today we get 3 spikes in the green space throughout the day on the chart so far. I view this as rising confidence within the human self. And for the last few weeks, this has been the case. And I said this on my video from last night. I feel that the human collective, that we have this sense that something important is going on in the world. And it's kind of like it's that moment where you say, "Am I gonna do this or not?" Am I gonna leap forward or not? And when we leap forward, we're leaping out of faith, right? Because when we're at this moment in time, we cannot see the next step usually. Sometimes it's because our emotions are so high. Sometimes it's because our emotions are so high. And if you have questions, I'll answer them in a moment. Thanks for putting that in there. Sometimes we don't know how we feel, right? What I feel helps the most at the moment of the leap, right? At the moment of the precipice, at the moment of the sense that I need to do something here. It's from faith and it's from trust. Yeah, radical acceptance. Hi, Greta. Thanks so much for being here today. So here's a movie. There's a movie where Harrison Ford, it's one of the Jones movies, and it's the movie where he goes on the quest for the Grail, and he eventually finds the Grail, spoiler alert. There's a moment there where he's at a cliff edge, and there's a deep ravine, and across the ravine is another cliff edge, and he can see the opening into a cave. And he says to himself, "I can't have come this far to fall into the precipice. Like, this is not going to happen, right? I know that this is the way, but there's got to be a path between me and where I'm going. And I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to achieve that." So, what does he do? He comes to the conclusion that there's got to be a path that he cannot see in the moment. Um, and so he looks within, and he reaches down, grabs a fistful of sand and throws it out before him. And sure enough, there lights up an invisible path. The invisible path was covered over. Okay. And why was that? Just like the meditation and just like the discussion of energy that we had earlier in this live, right? This water in the glass is an example of the energy in my field, right? Right now, I have energy in my field going out from my head, going out from my body. But can you see that? No, with your eyes. Now, maybe some of you can see auras. Okay. So some of you might be able to see the energy in the field. And I'm not giving permission to go in the field here, just to be clear. No. Always keep your permissions firm. So my discussion of energy does not shift my permissions. But why couldn't he see the path until he connected with the frequency of faith and trust? God would not have brought me this far to fail. God brought me this far, and there's got to be a highest outcome, right? The best is still yet to come. How could that be possible from this vantage point? I cannot see the water, yet I know, right? I cannot see the molecules, but I know that this water has molecules. I cannot see the energy in my field, but I know that there's energy in space around me. That comes from knowing. Now, it can come from a mental analysis, but in the question of what do I do at this critical moment, the answer is at a higher level, energetic state of being that is only accessible through a fifth dimensional state of being, through the relationship that you have with God, through the relationship of trust and faith in the divinity that created you. And you cannot necessarily see that energy. Sometimes we might have a spiritual experience where we see an angel suddenly that we couldn't see before, right? In the movie, Harrison Ford threw the sand and saw the path. There was a path between the two cliff faces. It existed at a higher state of being. And how did he get onto that path? He had to jump, he had to leap. He could now see it with his eyes. But this is weird, right? It wasn't there before, yet he made the leap that this bridge would support him. And that was acting in faith. That was maintaining that state in the field and then living it in life. And my friends, this is how we get through the energy that is very intense at the moment. And this is how we deal with the energy of an eclipse at these intense energies as well, right? Because tomorrow's new moon is at the same timing, well, 4 minutes apart. 4 minutes after the peak of the new moon is an eclipse. Wow, I'm just with the energy here of the leap. So just give me a moment here because This is the same energy, and there have been tornadoes in the center of the country, and I've only been in a tornado warning once when I was traveling, and I was just frightened as all get out. Um, I could only imagine what those of you who have to face that go through, right? It might be similar to when an earthquake happens in California, and I'm not giving any permission for this. I'm creating a space of sacred discharge, so I'm able to tell stories without generating or invoking energy, right? I burn the violet flame as I'm speaking through my mouth so that the energy is in a state of neutral and the story is in a state of neutral, even though the people in the story had emotions. So the same thing in an earthquake in California. What's happening in an earthquake? You're praying, okay? So I'm guessing that the majority of people in an earthquake are praying for it to end soon, for it to be easy, for it to be gentle, to survive the earthquake. And I'm guessing that it's similar in a natural event like a tornado in the center of the country. The only one time I was in that and there was no tornado in my area, that's what I was doing. I was praying, right? So when we're in these states of facing something unknown, I want you to also understand, and I invite you to think about this. What I invite you to think about is that the shift could be a positive. And I want to explain why. In the videos that I just did and especially in the first article in the list that I just popped in there, I in detail explained about the energies that Uranus is at, which is the shift maker, the energies that Pluto is at the moment, and the energies of the sun. Um, and I'll give you an example. If you've been doing the work and where you are aligned within, right? Where are those spikes in the green qualities? I'm relating it back to the Schumann, right? When that green quality energy spikes, we got this. We're more confident. Suddenly, I know what the answer is, right? It comes up from within me like Indiana Jones. He sees the path between the two cliff faces and he leaps, right? Spike in the green quality. In that case, probably extremely high. Um, so what I'm saying here is that um, it can be to the positive, and I'll give you an example. In the exact energies that I described in my last video, the astrology of the knife-shaped wave, right? I had a striking spiritual insight in the past week, and right before, 2 days before the wave happened. And was it shocking? Did I have to discuss something unpleasant, but then suddenly had all of these life-changing insights? Absolutely. And it's allowed me to elevate and just toss out a whole bunch of things that were old, that I had my mind around, that I can suddenly see. I don't need to do it that way anymore. And then do you see how that would lift someone up to be able to see a new path? That is operating and living and acting in a fifth dimensional state of being. So when people talk about the new earth, it's not going somewhere. Here's the earth. Here it is right here in this body. Here's the earth. The earth is this body. The new earth is me bringing a new state of being to this physical form. Hello. I don't need to get in a spaceship and travel anywhere. I don't need to leave this form and go into a different form. I can generate a light body from right here, right now. Boom. She's here. I'm going to let her wave to you. This does not change my energetic permissions. Okay, now I'm going to bring that light body all around me, behind me, and put it on fire. The golden light and the flame of divinity that I am, and just be that in this moment. Ta-da. So these concepts of ascension and descension, what I'm joking a little bit, but it's not a mystery, right? It doesn't have to be a mystery anymore. It's my view that the pioneering way to do this